So there are three questions I want to address today, and they are all about blogging. So if you are thinking about starting to blog or want to optimize your blog posts, these three questions might be relevant to you. Number one, are blogs the best channel to learn valuable information? What other channels would you recommend? Well, it really depends. It depends on what you want to learn. If you want to do a lot of DIY stuff, YouTube channel is probably the best. And if you want to learn about marketing, I would say blog is still a way to go. But many people are actually sharing their marketing knowledge and expertise using podcasts and also videos. So it really depends on your content consumption preference. What kind of format do you like? In the B2B side of things, what I have discovered, majority of the B2B marketers, they like to read. They don't like to, being disturbed. They just want to they want to do a Google search and the relevant content that will come up, and they are just reading about it. Okay, so blog is still a very popular format, especially you want to reach out to a B2B marketers. And it's also a very popular if you want to reach out to IT managers. What I have noticed, many IT managers, again, they like to read, but for a very specific how-to, they probably like to watch the YouTube channel just to check things out. But it really depends on your audience, right? Are blogs the best channels to learn about information? From my perspective, yes, it is. Again, depends on the topics. And if you want to write a blog or you want to use a blog to share the information, in addition to your ability to write, a lot of time you have to think about, and are you kind of like a writer, or are you kind of like a showman? If you really like to showcase your knowledge by talking, maybe the video is the best format. But if you like to write, you know what? Blog is a good format. So you have to determine what is your preference, interest to share your knowledge, right? Can you hire the ghostwriters to actually do it for you and for your company? Totally. Right? Many companies, they actually have a ghostwriters that actually write on their behalfs, and they also write for the independent consultants and also for your job scope. And that's totally fine. If you're actually not good in terms of writing, but you want to hire someone else to write on your behalf, definitely do that. And the popular site to actually get good writers, from my perspective, is Upwork. UPWORK, upwork.com. That's actually a site that actually have a lot of freelancers that you can tap into for multiple different kind of jobs. So check that out. Any other channel would I recommend in terms of getting content? Like I said, depending on the topics, what you are doing, and you can determine. But the most popular type of channel tend to be YouTube, obviously, right? And the different website that actually do blog. And another one is podcast is getting so popular now, and there are millions of podcasts out there. So you can go to your favorite listening platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even Spotify to actually enter into a keywords and check some podcasts out. But from my perspective, if you want to learn know-how, specifically like how to get things done, blog and the video are still the best format to get it done. Right? Podcasts, like if you are listening something, you want to get some general ideas, that's good. But in terms of specific, I would still focus on blog and the video. All right, so that's the first question. Second question, I want to start a blog. What should I do first to ensure I get on the right track from the start? There's a couple things. First one, you probably need to have a blog platforms, and I know many of us actually use WordPress. So as long as you use WordPress, you can actually publish it on your website, or that will be great. If you don't have a website, you can actually publish on the third-party site, such as LinkedIn, right? If you have a LinkedIn profile, you want to share your knowledge, you can actually publish blog posts on your LinkedIn profile. Okay, so that's a LinkedIn blog post. And another way that you can do if you don't have a website is you publish on the third-party site. So LinkedIn is one way, or you can actually reach out to multiple different publication companies, such as New York Times, the Washington Post, or even Huffington Post, and just check on and see if they take any kind of guest posts. Forbes, sometimes they do. You have to submit and you have to get approved. That's another way to do it. I personally think if you really want to start a blog, you need to actually have a blog site of your own. You have to have your own website and a blog from your website. The reason I said that is you want to own your platform, right? I have my own website, www.pamdidner.com. And I blog there. I also add my podcast there. I also add select videos there. Then I drive traffic to my site. When you have your own website, you are in control. You have a control of your website. You have a control of what that site will look like. You have a control in terms of what you want to say. If you are published on a third-party site, you are giving third-party the credit, right? You are driving traffic to the third-party site. Even you publish on LinkedIn, guess what? People go to LinkedIn to watch, to read your blog post. That's actually fine. But if you want to build your presence, digital presence, you want to build your own followers, I would suggest that you have your own site. That's the best way to do it. Like I said, if you have your own site, it's kind of like owning your virtual home. You have a control in terms of where the furniture will go. You have a control in terms of your narrative, what you want to say. Not someone else will control it, right? So the best way to start your own blog is actually have your own site. From my perspective, that's number one. Second thing is blog or creating video or the podcast. It's not something that you create and you stop. Any kind of blog writing, if you want to gain following, you want to rank well on Google, you want to build your digital presence, it's a long play. Does that make sense? You have to publish on a regular basis, right? I'm not saying that you have to do it like every day. That's not my point. But you have to have a certain kind of cadence and certain kind of frequency. You can publish once a week, you can publish twice a week, or you can publish, just make sure that you have 4 out on a monthly basis, right? So if you want to start blog posts, it's not something that you do and then you stop. It's kind of like you have to keep it going if you want to build a digital presence. That's the drag of doing anything in terms of writing a blog, creating a video, or even start a podcast. It's not something that you start and then you say, oh, I did 25 of them. Then I check that off and I'm done. No, it's not. It's kind of like you have to keep it going. Well, right, to the point you are like, okay, I'm done, fine, that's good. But as a company, doing a blog post is a continuous effort. That means you have to allocate budget and resources to make that happen. Does that make sense? So having an editorial plan is also important if you want to start a blog. So that's the second question. The third question is, how can I create a blog and repurpose the content across all my social channels to maximize the efficiency? For a long time, I would create one blog post and I will write a standard copy and I will blast them out to all my social media channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Same copy, same image, same call to action. And that worked okay. Like I said, when I started about 7 years ago, and that's what I usually do. It's a sense of efficiency, right? You write one blog post, you post out to all the channel all at once, same copy, blah, blah, blah. In the past 2 years, I have made some changes. And now when I write a blog post and I will write a very customized a copy for that blog post for different social media channels. So for LinkedIn, I probably will take a paragraph of my blog post and I will explain what this blog post is about, my point of view, and I will say, hey, read more, drive traffic to that blog post. But when I do Twitter, I maybe just one question, the question is about, hey, the differences between content marketing and content syndication. So I write down specific, just one question, and then I will drive traffic to that site. Then for Instagram, I will write a little bit differently, have the image that's very nice, but I will have a couple of the call to action. The image is about the specific 3 or 4 bullet points. Then I will talk about, hey, for that blog post, this is what I discussed and what are some of the key action. If you want to find out more, go to Linktree, right? Something. So because you cannot really drive your traffic on Instagram to directly to your website. So repurposing the content or write the copywriting for one blog post, I have made some changes. And I have to say there's no one size fits all approach for social media promotions or social media marketing. You have to kind of write the copywriting a little bit differently for different channel. That's one, okay? The other one, another layer of a complexity is for that blog post, can you repurpose that for podcast, for video, for everything else? Yes, you can. So I would write a blog post and I would take a chunk of them, and especially it's addressed for a specific question and there are specific bullet points in terms of my how-to tell, say, the readers what they need to do. I would take that and I will create different opening and different closing, and then I will create a podcast episode. So for example, I write how to scale how to create a global marketing plan, right? It's a long post of 2,500 words. So what I did is a portion of it in terms of, okay, how to create a content marketing objective. That by itself is about 500 words. And I would take that and I would just talk about it, that specific topic, create that as kind of like a subtopic, and then talk about it as a part of the podcast. And I also know that for video specifically, majority of the people who come to see my video tend to only watch about 8 minutes, right? 8 to 10 minutes. So again, I will take that similar topic and have different openings and different closing, and then make the core in terms of how to create, say, the marketing objectives. And I will talk about that, just that specific topic, and go in depth, but with a different closing and different opening for the video. So there are ways to repurpose your content. It does take time and effort, and you cannot just take one blog post and say, okay, that exactly things what I wrote, I want to just translate, like copy exact to the video or to the podcast. You need to somehow modify it, because when people listen or when people watch the video, they look for different things. Does that make sense? While when we are reading or when we're watching or when we listen, we tend to listen and watch differently than we read. So you kind of have to take that into account. Again, it took me a while to get there, but repurposing content is a great idea. But you have to take the channel into account, which channel that you will promote that content, and then also the formats. What formats you are going to use to actually repurpose your content. Channel and also format will determine how you want to repurpose your content.